Hello, y'all. Hello. Hello. How are you? It's only a day. All right. So we're waiting on Ivory. She's not on here yet, but she's coming. Oh, here she is. I can't hear you. Oh, are you talking? Girl, I didn't even see your lips moving and hear me. I can't hear you. All right, y'all. Today, we are going to go into Demona and Dr. Wasserman. Yeah, very crazy. This is Gypsy Rose Blanchard's tattoo on my left. And this is Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother's autopsy jab wounds on the right. Depending on what side you're looking at, if you're on my live, then it's going to be your left. Hey, Mersey. But this is exactly where, yes, it should give you the chills because I feel like when you see it, it's very clear. So anyone that doesn't, it kind of shocked me to hear people say, "Oh, that's not what that is." It definitely is. And she needs to be called out on it because people that are saying we should just let her be a mom, like, are you serious? You would leave an infant in someone's hands that would do this to their mother? That's wild. Hey, Kayla. Yep. And you know what's also very interesting when you think about it? Remember, her and Ken ended up getting matching tattoos. That's the branding. Her and Christy ended up getting matching tattoos. Like, really let that sink in. And the branding is part of the Demona character. Hey, Lexi. Thank you. All of that is a part of it. Hey, Crafty Macy. Hey, Karen. So that's all things that I think people need to keep in mind while we are speaking on this. Hey, Lulu. Hey, Prison Princess. Hey, Jackie K.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can I tell you I had myself on mute
Oh, this whole
and
time?
had a whole conversation, but I couldn't hear you because my volume was down. So I'm
Oh,
like,
OMG.
why can't I hear nothing and how come no one's talking?
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
That is so funny. What were you saying now? Because I didn't hear you.
I was speaking about the tattoo, and then also, Demona is all about branding, right? Um,
Yeah,
with Ken and her having matching tattoos, Christy and her having matching tattoos. The irony of this all is just the fact that her and Ryan never had matching anything.
right. Because she wouldn't allow him to be branded. He wanted to be branded, but she didn't allow it, remember?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He wasn't his ultimate goal. I mean, he wasn't her ultimate goal.
Right. Just like Nick wasn't.
Yep. And I know it sounds really far fetched for people. Like, does Demona really play a part in all of this? Like, because we think on, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to use this term loosely, we think on normal people level. We don't walk around as characters each and every day of our life. So we question it when people are like, what does a character have to do with any of it? Does it really, is it really that serious? But you know what? For someone with some deep rooted psychological issues, it really is that serious. It's that serious for somebody who doesn't have their own personality to adopt one. And she has adopted one.
Well, that's why she referred to herself as Demona. And one thing I did want to speak on from yesterday is where she was calling Nick. Was it? It wasn't Ted Bundy. It was.
She
Uh,
called him, Marilyn Manson. She called him Manson and Dahmer. She referred to him as
right.
both.
So I think it's very interesting that
Thank you
she
guys.
referred to him as that when she was the one who planned and executed this unaliving. That was her projecting who she was on him to convince him he was that person and not her.
Right. And his reaction to that, if you guys remember, and we can go
He
over all of
said,
this
yes.
again for those who weren't here, his reaction was he got very upset with her for referring to him like that. She got extremely mad, or he got extremely mad at her. She does know an awful lot about serial killers now, doesn't she?
Right. Now that should be something that I think even anyone that's around her should be questioning the fact that she knows that much about serial killers. And especially for someone that claimed to be so sheltered.
Yep, yep. And I just want to make it a point to say that I want you guys, everybody, please do me a favor, share out this live, okay, and give it as many likes as you can. I know you guys get so frustrated with me when I ask that, but it's so important because I want it to get out there. If you see the videos, not just mine, anybody's videos on it, repost the videos. It takes a second, but it's really important to get this information out there. So I just want to remind people of that.
Yeah, it is very important. Anyone's video that you see speaking the truth on Gypsy, it's very imperative for you to share the information because the more people it gets out to, is the more awareness we're bringing. Um, Anyone also that has any um, screenshots of any text messages, I mean, any comments that Gypsy has left and deleted from the time she got out of prison, please email them to Ivory or I. Someone reached out to us earlier requesting them, and this could really help.
Yeah, we did have 3 people reach out to us wanting to discuss this whole situation. We told you we were reaching out to people. Are we buffering, guys?
No,
Because I have a lot on my side saying I'm buffering. Am I buffering, Magda? I am?
hold
Okay.
on one
I'm going
second.
to come out. We're both. Is that better? Any better? Am I still buffering? It's good? Oh, see, now you all are buffering for me just the way your comments are coming in. You're good? You're good? You're better? Okay, good. All right, good. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, I want to, you know, we want to get that information out. I know I jumped into, I don't know if she's in here right now, but I saw Prison Princess having a live before, and I jumped in there and I liked it, guys. It doesn't have to be just us. It's anybody who's talking about it. Help them get the information out there. It's not just me and Nina. It's all of us. This is a group effort, and we need everybody to help out. So it's, you know, everybody hop into their live, give them some support, share their lives as well. You know what I mean? Because this is information, you want people to see it and understand it and hear it. And the more somebody hears something, the more they're going to understand it. Just any of the info that we talk about here, or any of the info that they're putting out there.
Correct. It's very, very, very important to do that. Because this information...
Someone keeps saying that we're still glitching.
Let me go out and come back in.
It might be me too, guys. We'll be right back. We're going to go out and come back in so we can not glitch. Hold on.
All right. Uh-oh. All right, let me send her another request. Can y'all hear me? Am I buffering? Tell me if I'm buffering before. You can hear me. Okay, okay, I'm good. Okay. Is that better? Yeah. Talk, Ivory, so they can hear whether or not if it's buffering.
Is this any better, guys? Are we still
You're very
buffering? It
clear.
doesn't sound like it. You're what?
You're very clear for me.
Okay, yeah, me too. I feel like my chat is working. It is not glitching either. It's flowing well for me. All right, good, Diane. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Magda. So yeah, what I was saying was I had been in a few lives today. I saw Prison Princess in a live, and I went in there and I chatted a little bit. I only had a few minutes, but I did share her live. I did like her live. We wanted anybody who's putting out any of this information, we want to share it. It doesn't have to be just us. You know, we all want to work together and put everybody out there. This information needs to get out there. And so always remember to support. If you see a video and you liked it, it takes another split second just to repost it. You know what I mean? To get it in front of a few more people. So it's really that simple. You know, like them, repost them, like their live, share it. It takes a few seconds just to share it. You know, get them a couple more viewers, even if you can't hang in there. And so, yeah, anything you could do. And again, not just us, all the creators talking about this. Thank you, Jan Ran. Yes, thank you for the heart meet, guys. And again, do me a favor, share this live and keep on tap. And I know you guys, I know I'm annoying with that. But that's really important just to push us out there. You know, we can push it out to people who may not even know and they just wander in this live. And now we got somebody else who's on board and talking about it. And you know what I mean? It's bringing attention to people who don't even know it's a situation.
Right.
And so I really do appreciate all of you. And I see you all doing it now. Thank you guys so much. The more the merrier. Yes, Lumi, absolutely. Thank you, Pumpkin Pie.
And you have to think a lot of people are still under the impression that, she was this poor, helpless girl and not knowing the real truth because the real truth has been hidden. Whether the media is willfully doing it or not, it's been hidden. And so it's important to really expose the truth.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hey, One Love.
Thank you, Crystal, for letting me know we hit the FYP. Thank you, thank you. That's really important too. We always are recruiting to this group, if you know what I mean. I'm just kidding, but yeah, we want the information out there. We want people to know what's going on. We can't fix the injustices in the world if we don't talk about them.
Exactly.
Someone asked if you can explain the tattoos, Nina.
So this tattoo on the back is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. This is the tattoo she got after coming out of prison. On the right, this is her mother's autopsy picture of where she was stabbed. So this was a trophy to her of what she did. That's how much she is playing in the world's face.
It is really chilling. It is really just, and it's going to go back to the Demona character. Remember, I know that it's just a character, but for us, it sounds far-fetched. But for somebody who doesn't have their own personality, to adopt another personality or to take on a character and live your life through that character is exactly what she's doing, in my opinion.
Correct.
So yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go into a little bit and explain the Demona character, a couple of things that I found, which was really chilling, and just telling on who she is and how she acts. And it sounds really weird to be like, oh, here is a cartoon or some role-playing character, and but she's adapted so many of the characteristics of this character. It's chilling. It really is. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you. So yeah.
And in reference, this is not just us saying Demona. No, she had this name Demona, and videos in the incident report from the Greene County Police Department that she referred to herself as Demona as the second person. So it is really important to have this conversation like this.
Yeah. Yep. It very well could be that. I think that's maybe what it is that we're getting reported, because I can assure you that they are coming hard at our pages. When I tell you hard, here on YouTube, they are coming extremely, extremely hard. So that very well could be the reasoning for the lagging. Thank you, Hairspray. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, for anybody in here who does not follow my backup account, it's almost the same as this one, guys. It's the Ivy Rose Nose. So do me a favor, head over there and make sure you're following that one just in case, because they're coming at this one mighty hard, unfortunately.
And mine is closed, Nina, with the extra A.
So yeah, make sure you're following our backups. Should we go down, we will continue over there. It doesn't mean it's going to stop us. But they are coming hard. And so, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because, and nothing we're saying, we're not making any kind of nonsense up. We're not putting out false legal documents. Like, that's wild. Those are accusations y'all really don't want to play with. I did see Bree's video, and I think it's really funny. Now, you could say whatever you want, but to say that we altered legal documents is wild. When we have done nothing but read them verbatim. And I even read the parts that may not make Nick look the greatest, but still honesty is honesty, and you have to see the whole thing for what it is. You know, you can't make an educated opinion or decision about what you think if you don't have all of the information. And no, Nick is not innocent. I don't believe that, you know, Nick is like some, oh, he didn't do it. No, he did. You know, we have to be honest. However, I think the trial and everything else was completely unjust. So, yeah. If I was altering it, I would have made Nick look a whole lot better. And I can assure you I could have made Gypsy look a whole lot worse. Not that she needed any help. But I'm just saying, to make accusations that people are altering documents with state stamps and court stamps is wild. That is a wild accusation. However, they make up these accusations, but nobody has ever come to me and said, hey, you know what, Ivory? You said it says this, this, and this, but what I have says something different. Well, come to me with it, and we can discuss it on a live. We'll go over it. Come to me and tell me what I have changed, altered, you know, taken out, added, whatever. But you see, you can't. Right. The objective is to be fair, is a fair trial. Absolutely. Absolutely, Lily, you're right. And so nobody can, you know, they're talking all the crap, but they can't back it up. Tell me what I've lied about. Why would I have lied? I made him just look just as bad as her. I'm just reading from the paperwork. It's 100% honesty. It was verbatim. So, you know what I mean? Again, don't let people fool you into thinking that we have been reading things, anything but verbatim from the court documents, because we have not. And a lot of people who also have the same documents can, you know, have been going around telling everybody and sticking up for us and saying, no, they're reading it pretty straight up, you know? So if you want your own copy, guys, you can request your own copy. You can request a copy so you know. If you're ever questioning it, request your own copy. All of my lives are posted on YouTube. Nina does hers as well. So you can see exactly what we read. You can see exactly what we were saying. I let you know if I do add in a little bit of my opinion or want to discuss it. I will let you. I always let you know that. So yeah.
Yeah, let's.
Haters can get a copy to see that nothing is altered. Absolutely, Magda. Thank you, Louisiana. So yeah, I don't understand, you know, but again, it just sounds like damage control to me, which is wild.
But you know, let them do their thing and say what they want, because if we were forging documents, that would be a federal crime. So they could come after us legally, but we're not going to address that anymore. Make your next move your best move.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can private message me your best chance of getting the best answer, because sometimes my TikTok messages don't work. Like, you guys ever get that where like they're not responding, not going through? You can't click the button. Is to email me. It's ivorosenows@gmail.
All right, so we're going into this character, Demona. Demona is Gypsy's character, where Demona and Gargoyle are from Disney characters. If you really dig a little bit deeper, she was into BDSM. She was into unaliving people with the same weapon that was used on her mom. So this is all going to make sense when you understand this character, Demona, because everything that she plays aside from Demona is within this character, Demona. So it's kind of like a tree and different branches.
And again, just to reiterate the fact that Demona is a character that she decided to go with during her role playing. That's whose personality she decided she was going to be. Nyx also did the same thing, though. In all fairness, he was into the BDSM thing too. And he also had a character. His character's name was Victor. Victor was a vampire. Victor was a lot less powerful than Demona. And
You can
we can
also
go into
look at
that.
our previous videos about that
Mm-hmm.
if you want to see that on our YT pages. So, because I want to make sure we get as much information to you all as possible.
All right, let me get into this. Can I tell you guys, there's so much on this character that I'm going to skip around and just give little things because it gives a whole history on this character. And so I'm just going to skip around to the parts of, that have to do with like the personality of the character and the looks of the character and stuff like that. Because otherwise that's just way too much information. So here's the appearance of Demona. First, let me describe. Do you have a picture of Demona?
Yeah, that's the picture that's on my page of the video of Demona.
So yeah, I will show you a picture of Demona. Demona's got red and black hair. You have seen Gypsy's character, Demona, in the videos. So her appearance, physically, Demona is a female gargoyle with a shock of red hair and pale blue skin. She is usually armed with either mace, a particle beam, or both. Her human form is that of a pale-skinned, red-headed, green-eyed woman with a striking resemblance to her gargoyle form. Now remember, Demona was a gargoyle. The gargoyle is a Disney cartoon, but the character is actually a character that goes even more in depth than just that little cartoon. Where am I? Striking resemblance to her gargoyle form. In fact, that musculoskeletal structure of the human face and her gargoyle head are virtually identical. She also keeps her fingernails trimmed to long, sharp points, giving her a slightly off-putting appearance, as if she's not all human. Like all female gargoyles, her eyes glow red when she is angered. However, even as a human, Puck's spell of transformation may glitch in her eyes, and she'll get a glow when she's angry enough. Am I still freezing?
No.
Okay. She usually wears a gold tiara, a pair of earrings, an armband, and an anklet as decorative jewelry, and also seems to favor, get this one, guys, she also seems to favor midriff-bearing halter tops that hang off one's shoulder.
Mm.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Like
Because she has a lot of shirts like that.
She does. But that is what she wears. Isn't that wild? And if you guys don't believe me that it says that, I'm actually going to show you the computer because that, I really didn't make that up, I swear. Oh, I have to hold on, I got to shut this thing off. How do I get this thing down?
Just go to the effects.
All right, y'all, I hear you laughing at me. Don't laugh. I don't see effects.
Just in the replay, we could add it. Just send me a screenshot. I'll add it in the replay.
That's so funny. Okay. Well, trust me. Yeah. That's what it says. Huh. All right. But that's what it says. It says she usually wears a gold tiara, a pair of earrings, an armband, and an anklet as decorative jewelry. She also seems to favor midriff-bearing halter tops that hang off one shoulder. First and foremost, this is her personality now, guys. Thank you so much. Her personality, first and foremost, Demona is her own worst enemy. She has spent thousands of years alone, and that loneliness was a huge factor in creating the present-day Demona. It has affected her to the point where, for a multitude of reasons, she even chose alone to be her access code during the climax of her fight with the history. At present, Demona continues to bitterly hate and fear humans, and wants the entire species destroyed, despite the fact that she fully turns into one during the day. So Demona is an actual human during the day, and then a demon at night. But she hates some humans more than others, such as hunters. She knows deep down inside that she is ultimately responsible in part for the Wyvern massacre, but is unwilling to consciously admit it, and therefore makes the human race her scapegoat, to avoid facing the blood on her hands. She does not want to die. She possesses one gift that renders her death impossible: a stellar sense of self-deception. Nothing's ever her fault. Nothing's ever going to stop her. No one is worth sacrificing her for. It's not true, but she believes it. She also continues to have a strong craving for power, hoping that when she finally destroys humanity, and gargoyles subsequently rule the world, she will rule over them. In fact, the human name she chose for herself stands for divine destiny. She was taught an appreciation of power, but it's doubtful she's acknowledged that influence. Demona is also very mono-focused on her goals. She has no hobbies or interests, and focuses her efforts on research, study, practicing her sorcery, making investments, and other steps towards her goals. As she escaped growing old, she doesn't understand aging anymore, and she only understands true immortality, and thus has no patience for it. Thank you. As for gargoyles' religious beliefs are concerned, Demona is probably lapsed or at least inattentive. She also didn't consider it a priority to hold a ceremony for the massacred when they were passed. Powers and abilities. Demona is a cunning and resourceful opponent, dangerous warrior, and a skilled sorceress. However, her anger and hatred have a tendency to interfere with her plans. For example, she will, in the heat of a battle, make the mistake of using her laser cannon as a club rather than firing it. She will also often alienate her allies or betray them, thus losing their assistance permanently. This has, fortunately, resulted in Demona's efforts to destroy humanity all failing. Demona holds the inherent physical abilities, super strength, durability, and prolonged youth. But it pales in comparison to her true strengths: sorcery.
Hold on 1 second. Someone asked, did we see her drink the mojito in the Italian restaurant? The waiter actually did a video and said that it was a mocktail. We don't know, but that's not really, that's neither here nor there. If they caught her with crack in her hand right now, they wouldn't do anything. So that's not even.
Sorcery is one of her true strengths. Demona was secretly tutored and became capable of dangerous sorceress, which enabled her to utilize almost any magical artifact. Demona would also develop a fine understanding and use of science and technology, using high-tech equipment as weaponry. She gained the power to become human during the day. Through the transformation is very painful. It is also quick. Being the ever-deceitful demon that she is, Demona used her human form to create an alias to have her own company. Let me see. As part of the pact Demona entered into, she not only gained her prime body, but became immortal and eternal and does not age, and will revive if she's killed. Manipulation. Probably Demona's most dangerous weapon is her mind, as she can fabricate ingenious plans, backup plans, all deceitful and self-serving, and she is also a skilled manipulator. So yeah, that's pretty much, the rest just goes into history that, you know what I mean? So yeah, but I think that when you start talking about the manipulation, um, not even trusting her allies, all of it, it's just really wild to me. Right down to her look. Right down to her looks. It's wild. All you hear is static. It doesn't say how she's defeated or if she ever is defeated. So I just think that's really, really wild. And then now I will see, I don't know how to get this thing down. I don't know how to get this background off of me. Anybody know how to get the background off? Because I also want to show you a picture. But I can't. Go to the green screen. Where's the green screen? Oh, wait, hold on. Effects. Oh, I found it. Hold on. Oh, look at that. All right, here we go. I want you to see this picture. Now look at her tattoo. Isn't that wild? Look at the tattoo. That's wild to me. So yeah. Isn't that crazy? So, yep. And the tattoo. And then I'm trying to, so you can Google Demona and they look exactly like her with the red hair, the red and black hair. Sounds like I'm down the hallway. Me? I wonder if that may be Nina. I don't know that I can meet Nina. Oh, I can. Is that better, guys? You can hear me now? Is that better? Yeah? Okay, good. So yeah, it was probably her staticking. But yeah, I just think that's really wild. And that's who she picked. And it's obvious that she really, she really gave thought to her character. She really did. She gave a lot of thought to it. And I believe that's like just wild. The fact that she uses technology, the fact that she's so manipulative, it's all just absolutely crazy to me. So if you guys remember, she had other characters, but they never had a story. The only character for her that had a story was Demona. If you watched her in her Dr. Phil episode, when he was asking her about her like egos or alter egos and these characters, she mentioned, yeah, there was Kitty, yeah, there was Candy, yeah, there was Ruby. But now Demona, she could tell you all about Demona. She knew what Demona wanted. She knew what Demona liked. She knew what Demona looked like. Like, she literally had an entire description for only Demona. The rest, she just threw names, and I think that they were just fluff characters for her. The one that she actually adopted was Demona. And that's the only one. Yes, Demona is the director of her story. And Demona is the only one that she could ever really, truly give an actual, actually define, actually give an entire background on. So she used Demona a lot more when it came to the unaliving and the planning. That's Demona's part in all of this. Demona was Victor's equivalent. It was Demona and Victor. So those were the two. It was Demona and Victor that worked on the unaliving and the planning and all of that nonsense. Not Ruby. It wasn't Candy. It wasn't Kitty or whoever else these other names were. It was Victor, which was Nick, and Demona, which was Gypsy. So yeah. Hold on, I can't. Yeah. Isn't it? It's absolutely crazy to me. Do I believe she has alternate personalities? I'm sure she does. But I think her own, like, I don't think she has any kind of personality herself.
Right.
I think that because she doesn't have feelings, emotions, she doesn't know who she is because of her psychological disorder. I feel like she doesn't know who she is, and so she adopted Demona, this character.
Because they have,
I really do.
She had to find someone.
I'm sorry, guys. It's Italian ice. That's what I think, Tiffany. I really do believe that she has that. That's just my opinion. I can't say for a fact, but borderline personality disorder sounds like it's definitely a possibility.
She has to find someone.
She's better than everybody. She talks about everybody that way. Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me, Ivory?
She definitely was not a normal teen.
Ivory,
I definitely believe that Gypsy had a psychological... Well, we know that she had the microdeletion. We know she said it herself on her video that the microdeletion could cause psychological issues. And I do believe that her hypersexuality and her all stems from the microdeletion. I really do. I think she was born that way. I think that Dee Dee did know that she had problems. And I think that not only was Dee Dee keeping her from men because she was protecting her daughter, I do believe that Dee Dee was also trying to protect everybody else that came in contact with her. Because we know our children. We know them. So I really do believe that as a small child, she started noticing something was wrong with Gypsy. And that's why she was being kept. Oh, my mother was trying to keep me away from people, so she was putting bags on the windows. Wasn't it that she was putting bags? And she was putting, like, stuff covering the windows? And it was because she didn't want me to have access to outside or for anybody to look in, or, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm locked up.
no, I think that Dee Dee knew that she was doing all this nonsense and was embarrassed and didn't want people looking in to catch her. Because between the court documents and everything else, this girl sat on that
Ivory, let me out.
The corn videos that they were doing to each other, okay? The inappropriate videos. Hundreds of videos. That takes a lot. It's a lot of time you are spending on the computer. And that doesn't include when they weren't talking about sensual stuff, right? That doesn't include the text messages, the Facebook, the Zoom, like all of it. It doesn't include everything. That is just those videos.
Ivory!
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, if that's what you're saying. But carry on, because it's just kind of funny to watch you be like a mime. You're like... What does it mean? What does it mean? Guys, don't tell her. What does it mean when we can't hear you?
She needs to cut her volume up.
Oh, am I the one that has to unmute you? The power. The power. I feel so powerful right now. I didn't know you couldn't unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yo, you're talking 90 to nothing, and I'm like, Ivory. And I'm like, yo, she just straight up ignoring me. She's like, yo, I don't even care.
You guys think I read the chat? When I tell you I zoom in and I just get lost in conversation, obviously I didn't even see you, but I didn't know that if I mute you, I'm the only one that can unmute you. I had no idea. We just heard you, and I was like, oh, let me
I'm
mute her.
like, wait, she's just running her mouth 90 to nothing. Like, she just not gonna stop.
That's so funny. Then all of a sudden I see you and you're talking to me, and I'm like, are you all right, Nina? What's going on? You like you're nuts.
I'm like, she's over me acting like Miss Unbothered.
I had no idea. That's so funny.
So I was saying that, you know, she has to attach herself to a character to be able to know how to identify, because she can't identify like who she is, because she doesn't have a who she is. She attaches herself to a character to build off of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I know, I've been craving Italian nice. All right, let me see. What else do we got here? There was some other stuff I wanted
Oh yeah,
to go
let me show you. So it's like these little overalls.
That's cute, but at first I couldn't see that they were overalls because you had half the tattoo showing. Those are cute though. That's cute.
Thank you.
That's really cute.
That's
like
so funny. I was like, is she really ignoring me like this? Like, that's crazy.
Not me sitting here. I didn't hear a word. And honestly, when I get into talking, you know that I just go on a roll because I wasn't even seeing you. I was just
like, she's like, I'm not even gonna stop to listen. I don't have time. She's like, I'm going 95.
I had no idea that I had to be the one to unmute you. Because I'm like, you know, you're muted, right? I was looking at you like you were an idiot. And I'm like, well, if we can't hear you, what's going on? You're like, I'm muted. So I'm like, unmute yourself.
These are her Lara from TikTok Shop.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Which one is that one? I got a whole bunch of them last year.
I'll send you the link because I got it. Oh, they sent it to me last year. And I did a video on it. And it was so, I loved it so much.
Yeah, I did too. I like when I can just put something on.
I'll do another video on it so you guys can see it.
She always watches herself. Thank you, Jeanette.
Me and these peanuts.
You and your peanuts.
Well, I try to eat them because, you know, after you have a weight loss surgery, they always say eat a lot of protein. I love peanuts, and that's how my hair doesn't fall out.
So this is, you want to go through the backpack and the camera?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So there was a lot of evidence. Now look how much evidence we got from just the videos.
Someone said, why does Gypsy get away with everything? You know, everything that glitters is not gold.
Mm-hmm.
And why did I think that was a man in your background naked for a sec just now? I was like, this is inappropriate.
My man is a little bit bigger than that.
Thank you for the gifts. What was I saying? I forgot. Damn, someone in the comments, can you tell me? That's an ADHD. I move on in my head.
I was talking about the backpack.
Why does Gypsy get away with everything? Everything that glitters is not gold. When I tell you, you think she's getting away with everything, she's not.
Yep. That's true. I think they see a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. If the family was holding her and the court system more accountable, you'd see more accountability. But I think because they Gypsy and Dee Dee were both relatives, um, that's why you're seeing things the way they are. Hold on one second.
She's right.
Yeah, because you have to think about it. It was probably, first of all, the shock that your sister passed away, right? And then
Yeah.
now to fight for justice, it's it's probably not the easiest, right? So they haven't really, and still it's justice against your niece. That's like your daughter unaliving your son. Like, it's, you want justice, but at the same time it's a family member and it's like an internal struggle. So I think that that's something to note.
It's the sister's daughter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Their sister, even though she's the one who was murdered, it's her most prized possession.
Hmm.
How do you just destroy that? You know? I'm sure it's a rock and a hard place situation.
Hmm.
So.
So either way it goes, it's a tough situation. And I kind of think that's why you haven't seen them speak out that much,
Hmm.
because it's very
Yeah.
confusing. I also think as we're learning about this situation, they are learning too.
Yeah. I'm sure there's
That's
a
my
lot they can
personal
do.
opinion. So I
Hmm.
think that that's part of it as well, is that a lot of this they're learning with us.
Yeah.
And that
That's,
must be, that in and of itself is probably hard to come to terms with a lot of the things that are coming out that weren't. I mean, because think about it. Dee Dee's not here. Nick is locked away. She's the only narrator of the story.
isn't that wild that there's only her side?
The
There's
villain
nobody
is the narrator of the story. That's insane.
Yeah.
Hey,
She's the
Lauren.
only one who has any parts to this.
Yeah. And so that's how she's been able to narrate the story. So it is really important to keep that in mind. Hey, Lauren.
Yeah. Yeah. Why can't they get to Nick's story? You know, I think she's made herself look so good and made Nick look so bad that for people who don't know the actual story, why they don't feel like they want Nick's version of the story. What is he gonna say? He's some horrible, evil piece of shit, right? Isn't that
Not,
what
on,
Gypsy said?
not only that, and I really, this is going to be very hard for people to accept. So me saying this is probably going to be tough. But we are raised to be very sexist. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Right? That's embedded on us. Like, women are like the weaker link, men are the ones that are dominant. So naturally, we're told that only Nick could have dominated the story, right? That's programmed in our heads. So in order to really truly understand this, you have to deprogram the misogyny,
Yep.
right? And you have to really grasp the concept of the fact that not only is Gypsy a woman, this is also a narcissistic woman that is probably a psychopath or a sociopath, right? Likely. And you have to think of those things. Those are not generally feminine traits, right? So because those are generally not feminine traits, you're you're projecting that more onto Nick than Gypsy, when she really is the root of the problem. And I think the second people really understand that, like, this will all make sense. And most people that are viewing this are probably likely women, and because of that you're thinking, I would never do that, so why would she or anyone else do that? That is a woman, right? So we have to debunk the misogyny, the sexism, and Also, keep in mind, this is a man that was disabled. He was collecting a permanent disability check. He had a low IQ. He was very high on the spectrum as far as autism. So this is someone that automatically, or low on the spectrum, in terms of like understanding. And even if you watch the interrogation, if you're on here, I have the interrogation on my YT page. Jack! It's important for you to understand that, because I think a lot of people don't really understand this because they think, oh, she's just a woman trying to be a mom. It's so much deeper than that. And you really have to understand what's going on, and you have to see it from outside of your shoes versus looking at it from your shoes. You have to look at this as someone that would even be diabolical enough to orchestrate their mom's unaliving.
Yeah. Yep. So I've been printing them out by section because then I know what I'm supposed to read and I don't get lost in an email of.
The justice for the toothbrush, they play too much.
I can't even. So yeah, I have a lot printed out though, and it's like every section just glides into the next with this one. So I'm just gonna keep reading until we're done reading, and we'll just finish tomorrow if we don't get it done today. Because we're going to talk about the stuff that wasn't entered into evidence. And then it goes into his autism, and then it goes straight into the actual trial and the jurors and what the jurors were questioned and what they saw, and it's wild. So it's just a whole lot here, but whatever we don't finish today, we will just finish tomorrow. We can stop in between and just talk about it as we feel necessary. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so guys, while I read, you guys keep tapping.
So, quick question. Before we go into this, I want to kind of, for those of you that don't really understand like how the jury and the jury pool works, and I think a lot of you do, because if you've ever been if you've ever had to do jury duty or know anyone that has done jury duty, one of the first things people say, well, is if you don't want to be on the jury pool, you need to say you're biased, right? And that's because if you're biased or you have any information that could come into this, other than what the jury has shown you, other than what the prosecutor or the defense attorney has shown you, it makes it to where your decision is not based off of what is presented to you in that courtroom. And that is really important for us to note, because of the fact that there's a lot of things that went on that Ivory is going to read about, that is going to show you that that was not the case in this. And even just on that alone, this case was handled completely incorrect on all aspects, including Dan Patterson. So, and Dan Patterson is the district attorney for Greene County. So I just want to put that out there. So the jury pool should have several, it's supposed to go in like a series of questions, and then it eliminates some people, right? And then there's some more questions, and then it gets eliminated, right? And then the defense and the prosecution come up to an agreement with the people that will be on the jury pool. So again, the defense has a lot to do with, they have 50% of the decision on if these people will be on the jury pool. And I'm saying that because the defense did not say, no, we don't want this person. They know prior information. This is not going to be justice for Nick or justice for Didi. This is not going to give a fair trial. That was not there. So that is very important to note, So as she's reading this, I want you to keep that in mind, that the jury pool was supposed to be questioned, and based off of the answers that they had, it should have been a whether or not they should be sitting in on this trial or not.
Yep. That was smooth. All right. You ready? All right. Y'all tap my read. Here we go. This is a motion for order for disclosure of evidence seized by the state and admitted at trial. Comes now by and through undersigned counsel and respectfully request this court to order the state of Missouri grant access for the purpose of inspection a Canon digital camera and memory card seized by the state and admitted as evidence in the underlying criminal case.
One second. I just want to answer this question because this is the second time they asked. She said, Ivory, as a nurse, wouldn't the doctor be charged for malpractice? I'm going to answer this first and then let you go ahead and answer. So there is a period of time that you could sue for medical malpractice, right? But in this case, there is no malpractice for Gypsy to even sue on, even though the time would be up. I think it's eight years. The time would be up, but she herself admitted in the court documents that she's lied from the time she was 6 years old after she had surgery, when she was paralyzed for whatever amount of time. When she did get the feeling back in her legs, she stated that she was not honest and she didn't tell her mom until 2011 when she decided to rebel and run away. So that means that she was lying. And then also there was in a part where the doctor said that they also did whatever that muscle test is, where they hit the knee, the reflex test. And in that reflex test, they saw that she had a reflex. So they were really baffled as to why she couldn't walk, right? And that's why Dee Dee really thought there was an issue. And that's why saying she had Munchausen by proxy is really a conflict, because in order for you to have Munchausen by proxy, you have to be making that person sick, not that person saying that they are sick, and you're only trying to fight for your child's best interest. So that would be the big difference. And that, just on a legal aspect, that would be what it would be. But Ivory could carry on with more on the malpractice.
So if they truly believed that, if Gypsy truly believed that the everything the doctors put her through was malpractice because they did it to her when she didn't need it, or even though she didn't need it, because her mother said to, even though the statute of limitations to sue may be up, that doctor and that healthcare system can both be reported to boards. Every doctor that's come in contact with her that she's saying, abused her in some way, shape, or form by not doing right by her and just listening to her mother, they can all be reported to state boards. The licensure board, the hospitals and the hospital healthcare systems can all be reported to the state. There is a higher board that overlooks that as well. So all of these people, if she truly felt like they did abuse her, and they performed surgeries and procedures on her, there's absolutely a whole lot that she could do that I don't believe she's done, because if there were lawsuits like that or reports to the board, all of that is public record. Anytime you call into a report to the state or a board of licensure or whatever, whoever you're calling it into, that is public record. You can walk right into that facility and request to see their books. You can request to see any complaints that were put in. You can, all of that is public record. You can look up a doctor's license just like you can a nurse and see if we've ever been reported on anything. Have we ever sat before the board due to allegations or accusations or whatever? So you can see if she did that, you would be able to see if she has. You would think that if these people really did abuse her, that she would have reported them to someone. even though she couldn't monetarily gain by suing them. You would think that if she, if these people did that to her, that she would take it so serious and be like, you know what? I wouldn't want that to happen to other children. So I'm going to do what I can to prevent that from happening to somebody else. And that she would have taken it upon herself to report all of them. She has not. I've checked. And again, that goes right back to why. Why didn't she do that? If they really did her an injustice like that and they really did medically abuse her, then why didn't she report any of them? Why didn't she speak to the licensure board? Why hasn't she contacted anybody? And she never did. As far as suing, she did say in the Vials Files podcast episode that they wanted to sue and that her and Christy were looking for a lawyer, but that none of the lawyers would take it. Listen, let me tell you something about an ambulance chaser, okay? These people love that crap. These people love when people want to sue you for malpractice. They love when people, you know what I mean? Because that's what they are. They want to hear, oh, this doctor, this hospital did something to me. They see money signs and they're going to go hard. Because 9 out of 10 times, these healthcare systems, they don't go on to trials and they settle it out of court. So any lawyer knows that if they take on a big healthcare system for something like that, 9 out of 10 times they're just going to settle out of court unless they're actually lying. So the fact that she has no lawyer that is willing to take a case like that, I find unreal, unless she's lying. And also any lawyer would have picked it up. There's no lawyer saying, no, I don't want that. No, they won't want that. Because that's almost like a slam dunk because, again, they settled out of court. They're not even willing to pay the money to go to trial. We're just going to pay you a couple of $100,000. $1 million or $2 million is nothing to these people. You're talking about an entire healthcare system that backs Mercy Children's Hospital. It's not just a standalone hospital. They're a healthcare system. Yeah, if she was telling the truth, the problem is she didn't contact lawyers. Why? Well, because if she did and they looked into her case and they thought that she was lying, that's the only reason they're not going to take it. Is that they don't think that she's got anything to play on, that they see that it's obvious that she's lying. So, but again, they all could have been reported to the board. She could have done something. If she did nothing, it's probably because she lied.
And this would be a case that if it was legitimate, any attorney would want to take this. This is a very high profile case. Going up against the Children's Hospital would look good for any attorney taking up this case. There'd be absolutely no reason for them not to take up this case. So the fact that she cannot find one, that should tell, first of all,
she ain't looking.
That's like Stevie Wonder saying he's looking for a pen, okay?
Yep, she ain't looking. Because, and what about Stanfield? Let me tell you something. Just because you're this kind of lawyer doesn't mean you can't. Law is law. You don't even need a lawyer. You can technically go in and do it yourself. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you, if she actually had a legit story, anybody would have bit because it's a guaranteed case. Because what she's saying is true. They would never even take it to trial. They would settle. I'm telling you right now, they would. They want to pay to hush it up, keep it quiet. Nobody wants our healthcare system out there. Don't go to Children's Mercy because, Lord, they're being tried. You see, come on. No, it's crap.
And it would probably, I would actually venture to say that it would probably be a class action lawsuit where they would be looking for other people with the same experience. So when you don't see that, you have to question the story to begin with.
Right. Absolutely. And again, you're not just saying one doctor, one hospital. You're saying every medical professional you ever came in contact with is
corrupt.
Yeah.
That's
literally wild to me.
And the fact that you would put that on the doggone Children's Hospital. When I tell you, when you think someone can't go any lower, and
there they are. Lowering like you never thought they'd lower before.
And doctors that take care of kids are like, that's some care. Nurses, nurse practitioners, all of them that take care of kids, to really say that they were corrupt, you should really let that sink in. on how disgraceful that is to even say that to someone that really dedicates their lives to making sure kids are well.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. I saw her say in an interview not too long ago that she would love to advocate and try and get these doctors and nurses educated on Munchausen by proxy and try and, talk about it and bring it to light. And I'm just like, do you know Munchausen by proxy? That disorder in and of itself, or fictitious disease imposed upon another, whatever you want to call it, they can change the name however many times they want to. That disorder is jammed down our throat. It was jammed down my throat in nursing school. I got it. I got it in peds. I got it in every aspect of nursing. I got it in the legal nursing section. That one specific disorder, more than any other one, more than HIV and AIDS, more than, you know what I mean? Everything you can think of was jammed down my throat so hard. This is what you look for. Make sure that you're speaking to the patient, not the parent. That crap is jammed down your throat. I don't know. I am still currently a nurse, yes. Are there, same as an EMT, because I was an EMT before I was a nurse. You are trained. Always talk to the patient, even if they're two. Always.
And I think
because
it's less,
of that reason.
and I also think it's like less than 1% that, and let's be real, and I've looked this up. I have not seen a case of Munchausen by proxy that was actually identified as Munchausen by proxy by a doctor.
So you're right. It actually is a very small amount. Why it's jammed down our throat is because 9 out of 10 times, apparently, in everybody else's case, but Gypsy Rose, no. Seriously though, 9 out of 10 times, the victims of Munchausen by proxy don't make it. And so they're trying to prevent death because the result of that disease is death of the proxy. And so that's why it's jammed so hard down our throat, is because that's usually the outcome. And it's like, let's try and prevent it before it becomes a death. And so I have reported myself, people with concerns and made reports about possibility of Munchausen by proxy, because the second I even think, I'd much rather you call me, you're going a little too far than me to miss something. And every nurse is going to say that I'd rather make an ass out of myself and report it than be the person that misses it, because then I'm held responsible legally. So my license is on the line. If I even think it, you're being reported. And so, you know what I mean? Everywhere. And that's how it is. I don't know if are there any other nurses in here? Like someone said they're an EMT. CNAs, same thing. I've educated so many CNAs on it, especially when you're in a children's hospital or like a doctor's office or a medical practice like that. That stuff is jammed down our throat. No one's looking for the lawsuit. No one's looking to lose their license. No one's looking for a child to die, and it's not always a child. It happens in long-term care. It can happen with children with their parents in nursing homes, and then they're doing things to hurt those parents just so they can, just so they can get the attention from it, and then they end up offering them for insurance money. It's Munchausen by proxy is actually a big thing in nursing homes and stuff like that, just as much as it is children. And so when I tell you it's jammed down our throats, it is. And someone just said in a nursing home too, yeah. All aspects of medical care, doctor's offices, I was trained in giving trainings on it. It's jammed down our throat because usually the outcome of Munchausen by proxy is death of the proxy. It's almost never murdering the person with the Munchausen.
In fact, they've said that she would have been the only case alleged, but also again,
defying the odds on all of it. All of it. She's the best victim out there. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But you're in here watching God's Chosen, so are you obsessed too?
Somebody called God's Chosen judging you? Because there's that.
All
right, y'all.
when I did look up actual cases of Munchausen by proxy, there was no like solid, and Gypsy has been the spokesperson for it, which is just
because there are none. Doesn't happen. That is
it's
not a thing with that proxy. Nope. Absolutely crazy. All right, so here we go. The motion for order for disclosure of evidence seized by the state and admitted at trial. Come now by and through the undersigned counsel and respectfully request this court order of the state of Missouri grant access for the purpose of inspection a Canon digital camera and memory card seized by the state and admitted as evidence in the underlying criminal case, and in support thereof states as follows. Multiple items were seized from the movant's house, which is Nicholas Godejohn, Waukesha County, Wisconsin residents were admitted at trial. One such item, a black Facebook backpack and its contents, was admitted as State's Exhibit 92. Contained within the backpack is a Canon digital camera with a 4 GB memory card. To counsel's knowledge, the contents of the camera and camera memory card were never inspected by trial counsel or the state. Due process requires post-conviction counsel be effective and raise all meritorious claims. Claims not raised within a motion for post-conviction relief are deemed to be waived. In order for counsel to investigate and raise all meritorious claims, including any claims that trial counsel was ineffective for failing to adequately investigate and present evidence to contradict the state's theory of the case, undersigned counsel needs to inspect the contents of the digital camera and memory card. Whereof, movement praises court order the state of Missouri grant movement access to, for the purpose of inspection, the Canon digital camera and memory card contained in State's Exhibit 92.
somebody said that chosen one was Ken, and
That was,
God's chosen was Ken, and the other one was Gypsy. That's so funny.
guys, maybe they let them listen. Maybe they want to hear. Front and center there, Ken.
Listen, Ken ain't fight with nobody in any lives. I'm gonna tell you that. Maybe Ryan, but I don't see Ken get. Ken is like, my name is Bennett, and I ain't in it. I'm just here for the show, okay? Literally the show.
All right, suggestions in opposition to motion for court order for disclosure of evidence seized by the state and admitted at trial. Come now, respondent, state of Missouri. All right, now remember, the state of Missouri is the respondent. Nick is the movant. Is that how you pronounce it? Movant? Movant? Whatever. Come now, respondent, state of Missouri, by and through prosecuting attorney Dan Patterson, and for its suggestions in opposition to Movant's motion and court order for disclosure of evidence seized by the state and admitted at trial, and states as follows. States Exhibit 92, a backpack and its contents were admitted at trial. Trial transcripts at page 617. Among other personal property of Gypsy Blanchard, this backpack contains a Canon digital camera with a 4 GB memory card. The digital contents of the camera's 4 GB memory card, however, were not admitted into evidence during the trial, and neither the camera nor its memory card were referenced in any trial testimony whatsoever. The investigation revealed that Exhibit 92, the Facebook backpack, and contents were the personal property of Gypsy Blanchard. Movant's counsel acknowledged that the camera and its SD card from the Facebook backpack are the property of Gypsy Blanchard in an email to the undersigned dated April 20th, 2021, stating that, and here it is, Mr. Patterson, during our evidence view yesterday, we came across a Canon digital camera with a 4 GB SD memory card in it among Gypsy's belongings. You know what? I don't mean to interrupt you. Nina, remind me of this really quick. Later on, just remind me to come back to this.
Hold on.
You know where I'm going with this? All right. During our, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, guys. I'm going to go back to the letter, okay? Mr. Patterson, during our evidence
Look
view
at your
yesterday.
phone. Ivory, look at your phone.
I'm looking at my phone.
Just put us on pause and look. I didn't tell her to get off. We're going to have to invite her back. Nobody told her to get off. Ivory's so crazy. Ivory said Ivory don't know how to work the phone, child. Somebody teach her how to use that phone. Gypsy been in prison for how long? But I bet you she knew how to use it, Ivory. Where's she at? Somebody tell Ivory come back. Front and center, Ivory. Wish I knew where she was reading from. But I think this part is really important because it tells you about the context, the contents of what was in his book bag, and everything. You know what I do think is interesting that we had been speaking about? Where is Ivory? Do y'all? We can actually watch Nick's stepdad's interrogation on live. I think that might actually be a good option because, okay, I found her. Somebody needs to give Ivory some classes on how to use that phone.
Listen, Linda, okay? I was looking for it. I didn't find it. I just found it. I wasn't sure where to go to look for your, yeah. Anyway, on
Listen,
that.
Ivory, the fact that you...
Are we judging here?
Listen. Not quite.
Let me start reading before she calls me out here. Ready? Mr. Patterson, during our evidence view yesterday, we came across a Canon digital camera with a 4 gigabyte SD memory card. In it, among Gypsy's belongings.
Someone said boomer behavior.
What the fuck? I'm fixing to block you. No. Gypsies. Whoever said, guys, go get Mercy. Go get whoever said that. Go get whoever said that. Boomer.
Said boomer activity.
Not a boomer. I'm not a boomer. Jesus.
Not they said you in your 70s.
Man, if I got left back and you got put up a grade, we'd be the same grade.
Okay.
During our evidence view yesterday, we came across a Canon digital camera with a 4 gigabyte SD memory card. In it, among Gypsy's belongings, in the black LifeSpring backpack, or to our knowledge, that card was never looked at. I believe investigator Counts was going to set that aside and talk to you about getting that looked at and for any content to be copied to us. Thank you, Jenny. During the course of the investigation of defendant's underlying murder case, no search warrant was ever issued for the digital contents of the Canon camera or its memory card. Further, the state is not aware of any information developed in the investigation that would indicate that any evidence relating to the murder is located on the Canon digital camera or its memory card. On April 20th, 2021, the undersigned respondent to Movin's counsel emails and informed counsel that the state would not conduct a search of Gypsy Blanchard's camera memory card because there was no legal authority to do so, and that the search of an electronic storage device, i.e. the memory card, would require a probable cause and a search warrant. Movant asserts no legal authority that would
No,
exempt
they
the
didn't
digital
check. They
that would
didn't.
exempt no that would exempt the digital contents of the camera's memory card from the search warrant requirement of the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Further asserts no facts whatsoever to establish any cause to believe that the camera's memory card contains any evidence relevant to the underlying charges for which Movant was convicted. Simply put, Movant's counsel is curious as to what is on the SD card and is asking the court to allow Movant to discuss a fishing expedition in violation of a Fourth Amendment. A fishing expedition? Do you know how much evidence was on their videos? Why would there not be evidence on an SD card for a camera?
I think they had came. I think at that point they had already, because remember, they didn't let them complete the investigation, right? They already, once they had a confession from Nicholas Godejohn, they were pretty much like, we have this cat in the bag, right? We really don't need them to continue on this investigation. We just need to nail him down and get her this plea deal and keep it moving. And that's the only reason why you're even hearing this in the media the way you are. I think what's interesting is, and the one question that I would pose to anyone that's in defense of her is, if this had went to court, what would this have turned out? Like, let's be honest, with everything that has been released, including her saying that she lied from the age of 6. Like, I really want you to really understand that, because that shows you how diabolic.
Yeah, thank you.
Like, most 6-year-olds are brutally honest to the point where you're like, I told you to stop saying stuff like that in public. Like, they're so honest, it's embarrassing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for your 6-year-old to lie to you about being handicapped, you, the mom.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But there's also that just explains so much on why Dee Dee was so adamant that there was something wrong with her. And why she
Which
was
is why it appeared that she had Munchausen, because Gypsy saying to her, like, my legs don't work, mama. And she's saying, right. And so Dee Dee's like, I need y'all to give me answers. My baby's legs aren't working. I need answers. Right. And the doctors are like, well, we did the reflex test and she has reflexes, so we're not quite sure why her legs aren't working. And Dee Dee's like, I need answers.
Yep. She's got muscle tone. Let's send her for an MRI. Let's do a muscle biopsy. Like, we can't explain why she can't walk. And so they're doing all these testing to come up with a reason on why the child can't walk. Meanwhile, it's the child lying, the child can walk.
Like, I really want y'all to realize, like, a 6-year-old being that diabolic, a 6-year-old, the kids that were out here telling you that your hair looked crazy, that somebody smelled bad at the store, like someone looks crazy, the kids that will tell you. I'll give you an example. And this was when Lonnie was 6. We were in the mall. And Lonnie saw one of my coworkers at the time. And, he has blonde hair. He looks like a Ken doll, right? But like a pretty Ken doll. So Lonnie says, are you a boy or a girl? Me, I'm so sorry. I am really sorry. But she didn't think to herself, like, that's how honest they are. Like, they don't.
She wasn't doing. She was doing it because she just didn't know.
No. So for your kid to lie like that at 6, about their legs not working, not about like they stole ice cream out of the freezer. You know what I'm saying? Not they stole the chocolate out of the back seat. Because even within, you see the chocolate on their hands, so they gave themselves away, right? Like that's what you're dealing with the normal 6-year-old. But we're talking about, hey, handsome. But we're talking about. I got this. Okay, you gotta turn it down, okay? They're brutally honest. You know what I'm saying? So when you really think about that in an aspect of a 6-year-old lying about being handicapped, when most 6-year-olds want to play outside and run up and down and pet this and pet that, for her to say no, I just want a free ride.
Yeah.
Like really let that sink in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wild. The most you hear is a fake my tummy hurts, right? But they don't go talking about like I got feeling back and I'm not going to tell. But she liked the treatment she got when she didn't have feeling. She liked the attention. So.
I have 2 cold-hearted.
Here we go. Further, Movin asserts no facts whatsoever to establish any cause to believe that the camera's memory card contains any evidence relevant to the underlying charges for which Movin was convicted. Simply put, counsel is curious as to what's on the SD card and is asking for the court to allow them to conduct a fishing expedition in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Wherefore, respondent prays that the court denies Movin's motion for the court order for disclosure of evidence seized by the state and admitted at trial. Pending before the court is a motion by the movant, which is Nicholas GODEJOHN, for disclosure of evidence. The state has objected to the request, and a hearing on the issue was held April 27th, 2021. After due consideration of the arguments of counsel, the court finds that Movant, is it Movant? Movant? I don't know why I can't say it. Movant's suggestion that movant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Movant's suggestion that relevant evidence may be contained on the camera's memory card is at best speculative. Although in police custody at this point, the camera and memory card were never admitted into evidence at trial and are not in the possession of the court. Since this item is the personal property of movant co-defendant, of the movant's co-defendant, movant may have remedies available to obtain the items in question. However, the court does not find that it has the authority to order the state to conduct a warrantless search of the memory card or to release the properties to movant's counsel for examination. Wherefore, the foregoing reasons, this motion for disclosure is denied. So they denied the disclosure of the evidence that was on that camera's SD card.
So it's like anything that was going to look bad or make Gypsy look bad, they wouldn't allow.
Trying to say that they were going on some kind of fishing expedition and it wasn't warranted to think about it. If you really, really think about it, look at all the evidence contained in the videos of their phones and computers and the search engines and all of that. All of that was evidence. Why would they not think the pictures? But I think that it's because that they knew it was Gypsy's SD card. It was Gypsy's camera and Gypsy's SD card. And I feel like they knew what was on the camera. They knew what was on the SD card. And if it got into the hands of anybody else, and this is my own speculation, guys, that if that evidence, those pictures got into the hands of anybody else, well, maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have gotten the plea deal or she shouldn't have gotten the plea deal. And maybe it would have been evidence to absolutely back up Nick. And I'm just saying, that's just my theory on it. But let's continue. It really bothers me that pictures, videos, like why would you think pictures wouldn't be evidence? There would be nothing on there that they could use. That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine what was on that SD card. I mean, think about her in those Demona pictures. All of them pictures were her holding the weapon, licking it, and like that is the time we're supposed to block Ivory all at one time. Okay.
But I'm
And
just
guard your toothbrushes like it for your life. Because you never know what somebody's doing with them. Okay. And I
now.
think that that is the lesson we should learn is that you never know what someone's doing with that toothbrush. So just guard it for your life. Put it somewhere where you can lock it up with a key. Okay. So
I
you use it as necessary.
I will absolutely use disposable toothbrushes from now on. Every one is a new one. Every day I will just take a new out of the package. Because I do not want juices on my toothbrush, but that's it. I like my toothpaste minty fresh. Nicholas Godejohn was denied effective assistance of counsel, a fair trial, due process, and was subjected to cruel and unusual punishment in violation of his rights under the 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Oh,
You know what? Someone said that SD card may have had the crime scene trophy pics.
There may have been a lot of people. And that his trial counsel failed to fully investigate and present evidence from a qualified neuropsychologist specializing in autism disorder to support a diminished capacity defense. Counsel failed to exercise the customary skills and diligence that a reasonably competent attorney would have exercised under similar circumstances. Nicholas Godejohn was prejudiced as a result, and in that counsel had not been effective. There is a reasonable probability that he would have not been convicted of first-degree murder and armed criminal action, and would not have been sentenced to life without probation and parole, plus 25 years. Counsel was aware, should have been made aware, prior to trial that Nicholas was diagnosed with autism as early as second grade and with Asperger's syndrome in high school. Counsel was aware, should have been made aware, that autism spectrum disorder refers to a group of complex neurodevelopmental disorders characterized by repetitive and characteristic patterns of behavior and difficulty with social communications and interactions. Counsel also was aware or should have been made aware
I
that...
do want to interrupt you real quick because I want to bring this to their attention, what you just said. You notice that he was charged with armed criminal, what was the charge? Armed criminal what?
Armed criminal action.
Okay. That means he was charged with the unaliving weapon. The weapon that she had for him. Right? The weapon that she took to the post office to mail to him. She was not charged with that. He was. I just want to put that out there.
So,
which in fact, she really, that should have been a charge that they both were charged. If it was one, it should have been her. But he was charged, like he took the fall on another level. Papas, I need you to turn that down, baby. First of all, Gio, you gotta go to school in the morning. Don't say okay. I need you to take that and go to your desk. You're gonna know. You are not grown. You have school in the morning. Tomorrow you have school. Come on, let's go.
so in the state of Missouri, it has nothing to do with mailing it, believe it or not. In the state of Missouri, that has nothing to do with mailing it. It says armed criminal action Any person, and this is Missouri's information. Any person who commits any felony under the laws of this state by, with, or through the use, assistance, or aid of a dangerous instrument or deadly weapon is also guilty of the offense of armed criminal action. But this is what I don't understand. He got 25 years for that, right?
Mm-hmm. So you get anything.
So it says for the armed criminal action only, it says the offense of armed criminal action shall be an unclassified felony and upon conviction shall be punished by an imprisonment by the Department of Corrections for a term of not less than 3 years, not to exceed 15 years, unless the person is unlawfully possessing a firearm, in which case the term of imprisonment shall be for a term of not less than 5 years. The punishment imposed pursuant to this subsection shall be in addition to and consecutive to any punishment provided by law for a crime committed by, with, or through the use, assistance, or aid of a dangerous instrument or deadly weapon. No person convicted under this subsection shall be eligible for parole, probation, conditional release, or suspended imposition or execution of a sentence for a period of 3 calendar years. Now, it says that they cannot be charged more than 15 years for your first offense. The second offense is not less than 5 years, not to exceed 30, and the third offense is not less than 10.
When did that start, though? Because that may have been within the last 8 years that they.
It may have.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, put the thing on the background.
I was at what?
Do you know how to do that, Ivy?
What are you asking?
To put the thing in the background.
Yeah, hold on. I have to look more into
it. They'll go off. Go to enhance. Okay, you got it. Look at you. You think you're a pro now and all that?
I am. I'm all kind of technologically advanced over here. So yeah, I need to look into this. I really want to look into this because I don't think it has anything to do with mailing it. It has to do with the fact that it was just a knife.
Yeah, because mailing it, she really, technically, she would have been charged federally because that would have been across state lines. So that would have not been something. That's how you know there's a lot that was disguised, because the feds should have picked this up. Period. No, but even if it was just the weapon.
The armed criminal action and 25 years for it, that just bothers me. I just feel like that's a lot for. You already got first degree. I mean, that's wild to me. But
well, they knew they were giving him life anyway on the first charge. So to them, it's like, what else could they add? Even if it was concurrent,
right? He
was never getting out. Yeah, but that could have been used to bargain in a plea deal.
Right. So here, let me finish. Counsel also was aware, should have been made aware, that the symptoms of ASD are present from early childhood and affect daily functioning. Counsel was aware, should have been made aware, that there are structural brain differences in someone with ASD or autism compared to those without. Counsel was also aware, or should have been made aware, that for 3 years prior to the offense, Nicholas GODEJOHN and Gypsy BLANCHARD engaged in an increasingly intense online relationship, which included sensually explicit online chats and videos made by Gypsy and sent to Nicholas. Counsel elected to put forth a diminished capacity defense at trial. Once that decision was made, counsel had a duty to retain a competent, qualified expert with substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorders, such as Dr. Theodore Wasserman, and to investigate and present evidence on how Mr. GODEJOHN'S specific mental disease and defect and the facts of the case support a diminished capacity defense. Counsel's failure to do so fell below the standard of care that a reasonably competent attorney would exercise in similar circumstances. Evidence that the defendant did or did not suffer from a mental disease or defect is admissible in a criminal prosecution to prove that the defendant did or did not have a state of mind, which is an element of the offense. This is commonly known as the defense of diminished capacity. When first recognizing the diminished capacity defense, the Missouri Supreme Court defined it as proof of mental derangement, short of insanity, as evidence of lack of deliberation or premeditation design. In other words, it contemplates full responsibility, not partial, but only for the crime actually committed. The defendant was convicted of first-degree murder for stabbing his girlfriend to death. This is in, they're quoting State v. Anderson. The trial court excluded the defense's attempt to present expert witness testimony that would have made it less likely that he would have deliberated before killing. The Missouri Supreme Court reversed and held that the defense expert's proposed testimony that the defendant had suffered from bipolar disorder at the time of the offense and was logically and legally relevant to the issue of whether the jury should believe the state's evidence that he acted with deliberation. Now we're going back to them because we were just quoting another case, so now we're going back to them. Prior to trial, counsel retained a clinical psychologist, Dr. Kent Franks, to evaluate Mr. GODEJOHN for competency. Dr. Franks found Mr. GODEJOHN competent to stand trial and provide trial counsel with report to the effect, and also diagnosed Mr. GODEJOHN with autism spectrum disorder level 2, requiring substantial support with accompanying intellectual impairment. This report was provided to trial counsel on September 28, 2016. On October 11, 2016,
Thank you, Alana.
trial counsel informed the court that the defense in this case would not be NGRI, but that Mr. GODEJOHN did not have a state of mind, which is an element for the offense of deliberation in this case. The record reflects that as early as October 11, 2016, it was the intent of the counsel to put forth a diminished capacity defense. Since counsel knew that Mr. GODEJOHN had been diagnosed with autism as a child and Asperger's syndrome in high school, and that Mr. GODEJOHN's relationship with Gypsy BLANCHARD was an important aspect of the case in regard to whether or not Mr. GODEJOHN was able to deliberate at the time of the offense, it was incumbent on counsel to investigate and present evidence from a qualified neuropsychologist who had expertise and experience in the area of autism spectrum disorder and Asperger's syndrome. Instead, counsel chose to keep Dr. Franks on the case and to call him to testify to Mr. GODEJOHN's mental disease and defect and his ability to deliberate at the time of the offense at the trial. At the pre-trial hearing on October 11, 2016, the prosecutor objected to the defense calling Dr. Franks as a witness to support a defense of diminished capacity and argued that he should be excluded for late endorsement because Dr. Franks' report did not mention anything about the defendant's ability to form the mental intent required to commit the crime. Judge Holden informed the trial counsel that he wanted to hear the testimony of Dr. Franks as part of his decision on whether or not Dr. Franks' testimony would be excluded at trial. A hearing was set to hear defendant's offer of proof on Dr. Franks on November 30th, 2016. On November 30th, 2016, an offer of proof hearing was held on whether or not Dr. Franks can testify at trial. During the hearing, the court asked the state whether or not they thought Dr. Franks was an expert. Mr. Patterson answered, "I think in this particular case, there are grave issues with that and that his testimony more than likely is to mislead the jury given his lack of knowledge on the specific topic he's been called to testify about." At the close of the hearing, the state argued that Dr. Franks was not qualified to render an expert opinion on the issue of diminished capacity. Mr. Patterson stated on the record that Dr. Franks does not know what deliberation means under Missouri law and that he was not qualified to testify as an expert in regard to a diminished capacity defense because Dr. Franks was simply not qualified on the issue and does not understand what he is talking about. Dr. Kent Franks was called as an expert at trial in the defense's case in chief. Dr. Franks' CV was placed into evidence as Defendant's Exhibit A. Dr. Frank does not have any practical experience or training in evaluating or treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder and has not published any articles or books related to autism. When testifying on direct examination, Dr. Franks was asked by trial counsel to tell the jury about his experience with people with autism. Dr. Franks gave the following answer. Well, it wasn't added into the DSM until 1944, and so the disorder has been known since the 1940s. But as research has accumulated, it's become much more. Clinicians are looking for it more than we used to because there's a lot more that's been known about it. And so, in the work that I do in evaluating people for the courts, I've learned how to administer the tests. I've learned how to identify it, and I've gone to training so that to increase my knowledge about the disorder over the last 10 years. Although Dr. Frank's testimony at the trial includes information parroted from the DSM-5 about autism spectrum disorder, he is clearly not an expert in the field of autism or Asperger's and does not have experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Counsel knew Nicholas GODEJOHN had been diagnosed with autism and with Asperger's syndrome prior to the offense and was aware or should have been aware of Dr. Frank's lack of experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorders. Therefore, counsel had a duty to investigate and present evidence to the jury from an expert with substantially more knowledge and practical experience than Dr. Frank's to support a defense of diminished capacity. After the offer of proof hearing, counsel knew or should have known that Dr. Franks was not qualified to testify in support of a diminished capacity defense based on Mr. GODEJOHN's mental disease of autism spectrum disorder. Dr. Franks was not an expert in ASD or Asperger's syndrome and was therefore not qualified to testify to his opinion on whether or not Mr. GODEJOHN, because of his mental disease or defect, was able to deliberate at the time of the offense. Counsel was ineffective for failing to investigate and present a qualified neuropsychologist such as Dr. Ted Wasserman, who is an expert in the field of autism spectrum disorders and who has substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Had counsel hired the appropriate type of expert, a neuropsychologist with substantial expertise in evaluating and treating individuals with ASD and Asperger's syndrome, such as Dr. Ted Wasserman, counsel would have known that individuals with Asperger's disorder are extremely susceptible to social manipulation and suggestion by virtue of the following characteristics: a greater need for emotional intimacy, both romantic and otherwise, the fragile nature of their developing relationships, social impairment, empathy imbalance, a deficit of cognitive empathy, which is being able to understand and predict others' mental state, but a surplus of emotional empathy, which is the capacity for attachment. Hyper focus on narrow range of interests. An expert neuropsychologist specializing in autism and Asperger's would have explained to the jury, where did I just go with that, at trial, how these recognized and accepted characteristics combined with Gypsy Blanchard's methodical manipulation of Nicholas over a 2.5-year period. Somebody asked me if I can show proof that it was for 2 years. 2.5-year period. I don't remember who that was though. Over a 2.5-year period resulted in Nicholas's inability to deliberate at the time of the offense. A neuropsychologist with substantial practical experience, such as Dr. Wasserman, could have testified that you cannot separate Nicholas GODEJOHN from his autism. He is always autistic. He would never have further testified that Nicholas's autism, combined with Gypsy's request of him and her planning, resulted in Nicholas's surrendering his deliberation on Gypsy by making what she said as fact. i.e., killing her mother, was the only way they could be together, and that it was up to Nicholas to rescue her from her abusive situation. And operating as such, Nicholas surrendered to Gypsy's logic. Dr. Wasserman, or a similarly situated neuropsychological expert, would have testified that these are the characteristics of an autistic person. Further support for the opinion of an expert such as Dr. Wasserman was available to counsel through information from Nicholas GODEJOHN'S family about his behavior over the course of his entire life, as well as over the time period he was involved in an online relationship with Gypsy Blanchard, from school records, hospital records, Social Security, disability records, videos, and Facebook messages provided in discovery, and mental health records from Waukesha County Jail in Wisconsin. Information from Nicholas GODEJOHN'S family in Wisconsin would have provided anecdotal information familiar to an expert in the field of autism spectrum disorders, which could be used to support his findings in regard to diminished capacity. If the counsel had investigated and consulted with a qualified experienced expert who had substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder, counsel would have been able to call this expert to rebut or to respond to the state's expert witness, Dr. Robert Denny. In a criminal case, the purpose of sub-rebuttal evidence is to give the defendant an opportunity to rebut or respond to the state's rebuttal evidence. To be admissible in sub-rebuttal evidence must be relevant in surrebuttal, otherwise admissible. State versus Taylor. Much of the testimony of Dr. Denny's rebuttal testimony regarding autism spectrum disorders was at the very least misleading and oftentimes incorrect. An expert who had substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder, such as Dr. Ted Wasserman, would have been able to testify to Dr. Denny's misrepresentation of autism and Asperger's disorder. When asked by the prosecutor to explain why he agreed to Mr. GODEJOHN'S historical diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, Dr. Denny testified as follows. Well, yes, I can. And to be fair, if we can just say that because of his history, started out with autism when he was younger. Because one of the things that would classify a condition as autism for young children is not only the communication problem and the perseverative kind of rogue behaviors, collecting things, playing with things in an odd way, repetitive behaviors. This is what he said, and so I'm trying to repeat it, and it's just weird for me because I'm reading it the way he said it. But also delay in language functioning or general cognitive functioning. If the person had those delays as well, then it would be considered autism. If they did not have the language delays or overwhelming cognitive delays, then it was considered Asperger's. Okay? So that's the key difference there. And back then, when Mr. GODEJOHN was very young, there were indications of delayed language functioning at young ages. And so he was diagnosed with autism. Then once he reached high school, those areas caught up. So they were no longer relevant to his condition per se. And they fell away, which then changed the classification over to Asperger's. Changed the diagnosis to Asperger's for him. And we don't know exactly why there was that delay there. It could have been a delay but either way, he caught up, and so it was Asperger's. And I agree with that diagnosis. At the time, I think it was correct. A qualified expert such as Dr. Wasserman would have been able to testify that Dr. Denny's description of the language development and functioning of an individual formerly diagnosed with Asperger's disorder is incorrect. There are early delays that self-correct, but adult language is in several aspects. There are early delays that self-correct, but adult language is truncated in several aspects. In addition, there's an extent research which clearly demonstrates that there are real differences neuropsychologically between autism and Asperger's. In addition, Dr. Denny concluded that Nicholas was mildly autistic. He testified that Asperger's was a very mild form of autism. Dr. Denny also testified that his diagnosis of Nicholas Godejohn was autism spectrum disorder mild or level 1. Dr. Denny's testimony that Nicholas Godejohn was mildly autistic is misleading, and his insinuation that autism level 1 is mild autism is actually incorrect. An expert who has substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder would have testified on rebuttal that what Dr. Denny is terming as mild merely reflects the superficial socialness of an individual with Asperger's disorder that masks ongoing significant social dysfunction. Dr. Denny appeared to use the word mild, quote unquote, in a manner consistent with usage meaning not severe, serious, or harsh, which implies to a layperson that the autism was hardly a factor at all and can be discounted. In fact, he used some version of the term mild over a dozen times during his testimony. A qualified expert would have pointed out on rebuttal that that was a gross mischaracterization of the term mild when used in conjunction with autism for description purposes. This is really long. Hold on. Yeah, Candy, you can. Despite the severity of symptoms, individuals with autism always have the same core deficits. There are strong and consistent commonalities and social deficits that result in individuals with ASD interacting with others differently. A qualified expert with practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism would have testified on rebuttal that certain symptoms must be present in order to qualify for a diagnosis of autism. Even people with level 1 autism may have significant developmental and sensory challenges that are severe enough to get in the way of normal activities and relationships. Therefore, individuals suffering from high-functioning autism spectrum disorders are, by definition, impaired in understanding social cues and in responding to them. A qualified expert with practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism would also have testified in rebuttal that any person meeting the criteria for having ASD will be further diagnosed as having ASD level 1, level 2, or level 3. These levels specifically indicate how much support an autistic person needs, with level 1 meaning relatively little support is required. Level 3 indicating that the need for a great deal of support. Nowhere in the DSM-5 is the word mild used in describing Asperger's disorder or ASD level 1. A qualified expert with substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals in autism would have been able to testify that Nicholas Godejohn did not get a level of support he needed at home or in the form of services from in the community. A qualified expert would have testified that this is evidenced by Nicholas Godejohn's Social Security disability records. Less than 7 months prior to the offense, Nicholas's mother, Stephanie Goldhammer, completed a Social Security benefits form in regards to Nicholas's disability titled Social Function Report, Adult Third Party. In this report, Stephanie writes that Nicholas has a lot of concentration problems, is not comfortable around people, sometimes seems to have problems grasping the quote-unquote real world. She reports that Nicholas doesn't understand why you need to take a shower, why you need to clean your room. Nicholas's mother also reports that Nicholas is not capable of cooking an oven-prepared meal. Stephanie Goldhammer also reports on the form that the computer is a lot of his connection to people. He is always to himself. In addition, the prosecutor asked Dr. Denny if he had published a paper with regards to autism, and he responded, "Yes, I have." This one paper is also listed in Dr. Denny's curriculum, which was put in evidence as trial as State's Exhibit 187. The paper is entitled An Estimate of the Prevalence of ASD in incarcerated population. And the primary author is listed as Rachel L. Fazio. The secondary author is Christina Peets, and then Dr. Robert Denny is listed last, and the published date is listed as 2012. The School of Professional Psychology and the Forrest Institute is also referenced in the author section. In 2012, Dr. Denny was a professor at the Forrest Institute and also supervised doctoral students. A qualified expert with substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism could have testified in rebuttal that the fact that Dr. Denny's name is third in line on this particular research paper does not make him an expert in an area of autism spectrum disorder. If counsel would have adequately investigated a diminished capacity defense with a qualified, experienced expert who had substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder to determine whether Nicholas Godejohn suffered from a mental disease or defect at the time of the offense, which precluded him from deliberating, counsel could have discovered that an expert, such as Dr. Ted Wasserman, was available and would have concluded to a reasonable degree of psychological certainty that Nicholas Godejohn suffered from a mental disease or defect at the time of the offense, that due to his disorder, Mr. Godejohn was not capable of deliberating or of cool reflection at the time of the crime. Dr. Wasserman or a similarly situated neuropsychologist would have testified at the guilt phase of Mr. Godejohn's trial and will testify at any hearing granted in this case that because of his autism spectrum disorder, Mr. Godejohn's ability to deliberate at the time of the offense was non-existent, and therefore Mr. Godejohn did not have the ability to deliberate at the time of the offense. Counsel's ineffectiveness resulted in prejudice to Mr. Godejohn in that counsel's failure to investigate and present evidence from a qualified neuropsychologist specializing in ASD allowed the prosecutor to argue in closing that Gypsy did not manipulate Nicholas into killing her mother. The jury did not hear evidence about how Nicholas Godejohn's autism played a role in his relationship with Gypsy. Without this evidence being presented from an expert with substantial practical experience in evaluating and treating individuals with autism spectrum disorder, the state was able to make the following closing arguments to the jury without any contrary evidence being presented by the defense. And absolutely you heard as part of the facts that Gypsy did have a role. She was the one to ask the defendant to kill her mom. But we have to be careful and separate out what is collaboration versus manipulation. Because there could be this sense that because Gypsy was the one that asked the defendant, somehow she manipulated the defendant into killing her mom. Let's think about that for a minute. Think about manipulation. It requires some kind of deception. I want to steal a car, so I tell you, hey, see that car over there? The owner said I can have it. It's okay. Could you just go get it for me? That's manipulation because we're deceiving versus, hey, that car over there, I want to steal it. Do you want to do that for me? That's manipulation. That's not manipulation. She asked him, but he said yes. And if you think about it, in a way, Gypsy asked him in the least manipulative way because she didn't lie at all. She put it all out there. She didn't try to do it through innuendo. She didn't make up things. She just said, this is what's happening to me. Will you kill my mom? There's no manipulation there because ultimately it was the defendant's decision. Nothing was held back from him. And if anything was evident from the dynamic of their relationship that you saw in the Facebook, in the text messages, in the interview, and in Gypsy's testimony, Nicholas Godejohn was not made to ever do anything Nicholas Godejohn did not want to do. Counsel was ineffective for failing to investigate and present evidence from a qualified neuropsychologist specializing ASD to support a diminished capacity defense at trial during the guilt phase. Nicholas Godejohn was prejudiced by counsel's failure in that the outcome of his trial would have been different and Mr. Godejohn would not have been convicted of murder in the first degree. A new trial must be ordered. So, wow, that was a lot.
Well, the real thing is, and this is why none of these appeals have went through, is because it's not about him being innocent. It's about too many people were corrupt in the situation. And I think it's very ironic considering, and I know you saw this, Ivory, that there's a petition going around for Dan Patterson, which is the DA that handled this case. And that's kind of like irony, to see how this is all playing itself out. And I say that to say it is not just him that has been a victim of this DA, and probably the public defender as well, because they've all likely worked out deals. So I think that because we're seeing this in this format, it's very obvious to us because this is a case where the perpetrator has showed their butt, so it makes it so easy for us to see. But I guarantee you there's multiple other cases that they have both tried
Yes,
that
ma'am.
are resulting in similar situations.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? They were playing. I mean, I get that law and courts and trials. You have to understand it's all a game of chess. It's really just a game of who's going to play better. In Nicholas's case, it wasn't a master versus a master at chess. It wasn't, you know what I mean, anybody on the same level field playing. The prosecution was up here, and unfortunately, it's like he was playing chess with a child because Nicholas's attorney, his first attorney, did not do anything he should have done or that he was responsible to do to defend his client. I mean, their and attorneys are held to a level of they have to do certain things. You know what I mean? And I just feel like in this case, that lawyer was really
It was like he was working for the
the
DA.
prosecution. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. It's just really wild. How can you be so? I'm trying to use a word without sounding. How can you be so ineffective? No, like you didn't do anything you should have done. It's wild to me. But not only that, like the judge, Patterson, all of them, they were all playing games. How you're gonna sit there and ask, is it a fishing expedition? Like, why would you need the evidence on the SD card from the camera?
Like, come on now. This girl unalived her mom. That's, I mean,
How much evidence was on the other videos and everything else that they confiscated from Nick's house? All of it. The problem was that was Gypsy's SD card, and well, I think there was a little bit of concern there that if they handed that over and allowed them to see the product of that SD card, that could have been extremely,
damning.
yeah, yeah. And
So
so
what they don't
got loose.
can't hurt them. Because trust and believe, they knew that if they saw what was on there, it would be worse.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I don't know where the SD cards are right now. I don't know if they still have them, if they keep them in evidence. They could have been thrown away. I don't know how
Gypsy
that.
probably picked them up. I would assume she would have picked them up.
So things that were in
With,
evidence because of a crime, do they get them back? I don't know that they do.
well, yeah, once she served her time, so she may not have picked it up yet, but I do think she can get it back.
Once it's an evidence, it's always an evidence, I would assume, because you never know when something else can be brought back up. That's what I'm assuming. That's an
Well,
assumption on my part, though.
I think they said that she could have had her laptop back, or like there it was available for her to get it back.
I see a lot of people in here
But you got
saying
to think they
things
didn't
like
use
that.
that as evidence. Like they didn't use it as evidence, though.
So
That's the
originally,
thing.
no, originally it was, they collected it on the search warrant, so it was collected as evidence. It was never used as evidence because Gypsy took a plea deal. And
Yeah,
then, so it's,
they do have to give it back once it's.
so what they're saying is that even though they wanted it as evidence, they didn't need it. They never checked to see what was on that SD card. So had they had changed that over and found out what was on the SD card, then maybe they could have used it, but they never did that. And now they're saying, well, it's too late. You can't, we have no reason right now to go through Gypsy's SD card and take her pictures, is pretty much what it is. They didn't have a reason for a warrant to go and get that SD card again. There was
Well,
nothing.
and this again just really shows more of the bias is that it was okay for them to look through his stuff, but it's not okay for them to look through her stuff. That's when they draw the line. That's when it's like we don't need that.
I agree, Paradise. There's something on that SD card. I mean, look at what damning information was on the videos, the cell phones, the text messages, the Facebook. I mean, all the other technology that they went through.
There's even text messages. Even some of the Facebook messages, they still haven't, released that they have actually seen. So that just lets you know it is definitely much worse than what it appears to be.
Yeah,
And you have to think, just in the last couple of days, we were able to see that she even lied about the feeling in her legs, right? Like, so just think about what we don't know. When I say I truly believe that this is a situation that's far worse than any of us could really imagine. And I say that just because just that one small paragraph to me changed the whole like situation because it went from her mom, they're saying she has Munchausen, or they're saying that even if she was just malingering and embellishing it, no, she wasn't even really malingering because she truly believed Gypsy's legs didn't work.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is so much.
Yep. I'm gonna skip over. And well, you know what? Maybe I won't. I was gonna get into another part. Like I wanted to talk about the change of venue and the pre-trial, the jury and stuff like that. But I feel like that's a lot to get into, and we can get into that tomorrow because it's already 1:45 for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's crazy to read. I read through that and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. I have no law background other than medical law. I have nothing to do with law. You know what I mean? Other than what I watch on TV. Like, let's be for real. We all watch Law and Order. But that was just wild. The way that, I know what should and shouldn't be done. And that was crazy. It was absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, when you even just look at even just the basis of the jury pool not being questioned, right? Like just even just that should have been every reason for them to revisit this or him to have another trial because just that was a breach of his rights. And the unfortunate part is if they weren't dealing with someone that had a low IQ and autism, they likely would have questioned it themselves.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like they're in their minds, it's like he doesn't know any better. We could continue to screw him over. we don't have to abide by his civil rights because he doesn't even know what that means. So if he doesn't know, let's just say, like, it just shows the level of, like I said, sexism, misogyny, um, just even really when you think about it, is even social class and what, just the whole thing is really awful. And
The more I read, the more I just, I don't know, the more I see that this whole trial was,
he was doomed. He did not stand a chance. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons why this show really kind of annoys me,
yeah,
because the fact that Lifetime could even allow this to get to this level, knowing that, and you know what, I don't know how much they know, right? Because let's face it, we're just now finding out that she knew since she was 6, right?
right.
Because remember, we've always said, well, when did she realize it? 12, 13, 14, right? So maybe Lifetime doesn't know, right?
Hmm.
Like, they know that the situation's not like, obviously she's a manipulator, right? But then when you think about it, Melissa Moore is just as much of a manipulator as she is,
Oh, I know, absolutely. Two peas in a pod.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
so like when you look at it in that aspect, the reality is, it kind of, the situation is what it is, you know?
Yeah,
And that's why I said the unfortunate part is if no one is fighting for some sort of justice, and that's what Gypsy was kind of expecting, is for everyone to kind of just believe the story, and at no point would anyone question it, because, let's face it, it's frowned upon to, what they would call it, victim shaming, right? But the reality is she isn't a victim, so most people wouldn't really say anything. And I remember when I first started questioning this, um, I believe I was the only content creator that was questioning the validity of this whole case, right? And I would catch a lot of flack. And this is this time last year. People were really saying, how insensitive I was and blah, 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 blah. But the more and more I looked at it, I was like, this just doesn't seem right. And I'm not understanding why I'm the only one that thinks that this is odd.
right.
But even just hearing like how he was treated, I mean, just seeing, honestly, when you see the interrogation, I feel like that's enough.
I'd like to, we should watch that. Would you guys like to watch that together? I feel like I want to talk about that as I watch it. I want y'all to
The
listen. I just want
interrogation.
someone to listen to me while I watch the interrogation.
I do think that it's something that we will have to watch on YT.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. We could do that Saturday.
Nicholas's in particulars, not
Yeah,
necessarily Gypsies. I believe Gypsies we can watch on here, but Nicholas, his interrogation is more explicit, like in the
yeah,
stuff that he says.
right,
So I feel as though we would have to watch that on YT. We wouldn't be able to do that on here.
right. Yeah. I think that the lawyer, Eliza Kate just said, I think the lawyer is one of the one that's the most guilty. Well, he's definitely up there. Nick's lawyer definitely
Well,
had a hand in him losing that.
and the DA, Pat. I mean,
Absolutely. Patterson, of
he
course.
knew what was going on.
But
He
nobody
knew what
thinks
was
that
going on.
their own lawyer is going to be the one against them. There's no way that
Well,
you
he
can
was
say that he defended Nick at all.
no, and the problem really is Nick really didn't have anyone advocating for him,
Yeah,
and especially if you don't know the legal system, you don't really know what could possibly happen. You're kind of, and I think his mom was just so caught up in the fact that it happened and he was involved, that she couldn't even wrap her mind around the whole process.
right. Yeah. Yep. That is His mom, that whole thing with his mom is a little bit, and then you look at the
And just
abuse.
even see that is the thing. And that's where I say the sexism and the misogyny, because the fact that Gypsy alleged abuse, which we know did not happen now, right? Uh, is pitied, but Nick has actual abuse, and for some reason it's overlooked.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And then look at them. It's like, you're sitting there talking about you can't compare one person's abuse to the other, and you know what I mean? Abuse is abuse, and it's also. So then the same thing needs to go for Nick. You know what I mean? If you're going with the story that you were abused, and I don't believe it, but if we're going to go with that story, then Nick, why wasn't his abuse brought up? Like, what? Because you were punched, but you were seriously emotionally abused? That makes a difference? Sometimes I'd rather be punched. You know what I mean? Like, because you couldn't
Right.
physically see Nick's abuse. I mean, you couldn't see hers either, but I'm just saying, it's wild to me that you gave her that kind of plea deal based on her abuse. Meanwhile, he was just as abused in pretty much the same way. You know what I mean? Well, it depends. It depends on which story you go with the other one. But I'm just saying,
But keep in mind, they knew she wasn't abused, but they still let her use that story, because just like
right.
we see the documentation that she's been lying since she was 6, they seen it.
Yep. And then you got to look, you know what I mean? Like, what evidence? I want to know what evidence that jury saw. Was
I
there?
honestly really don't think they saw much.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
I really don't.
What could you have shown? Like, where is the evidence that he would have gotten that, like, I don't know. It's just weird. I just don't understand. Well, I really don't. How you can sit there and get him on one. Meanwhile, she's out in 8 years. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. No, you're right. The jury will never get 100% of the evidence. That's absolutely correct.
But they
He
didn't
took
even get a
issue. She did
fraction of
not have
it.
a jury. He had a trial. He had a jury. And where I was going to go through that tonight, but it's a little bit too long to get to, and I don't want to go through a section. Like, if we're going to talk about the jury and the trial, I don't want to break it up between 2 days because then people forget. So I'd much rather talk about the whole thing in one little section. And so I'm not going to start it tonight because it's already late. And so tomorrow we can go through the pre-trial, the jury, the pre-trial, and then the trial, and that's what we'll do tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you know what? I think it will be good doing the interrogation on YT as well, because we could have it actually show up on the screen itself.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's actually perfect timing. And what's today? Thursday, right?
Yeah,
So tomorrow we go through, we read the pre-trial, the jury selection, the trial. We could get
right.
through that tomorrow. We were originally going to go live on YouTube on Saturdays. So then
Yeah,
that leaves us, the next day is Saturday, and then we can go and show the interrogation and then just kind of recap everything that we went through. And I'll take little notes just to paraphrase it all and try and give an idea and remind people what we were going through. And then I don't know about you, but the last few minutes we can always pull people up who have questions.
right,
You know what I mean? And then, yeah, then we can close out the first week Saturday and kind of regroup
right.
because I think we have a lot to do as far as that journalist reaching out. And guys, do me a favor. Do not forget that not just on TikTok, any comments that you've seen that Gypsy Rose has made, either in response to comments on her videos or in response to other people, just things that you may have snippets of, things that you may have screen recorded, damning ones, like where, she was telling people off. I know she took a lot of them down. I know she had that "it was so 10 years ago" comment removed, but we do have that screenshot. But you know what I mean? You know how she goes and removes them when she gets called out there. So any of you who have those comments or response to comments or You know how she put up those quick little stories or quick little videos and then takes them down, the damning ones. So if you do have them, you can either email them to me at ivorose at gmail, or you can send them to Nina at
At
inflo at flawless Nina.
info@flawlessnina.com.
Okay. So it doesn't matter who you send it to, guys, just as long as we get it. You can send it to Jack if you need to, and that's ivoryjack at gmail. So, and I don't care how you get it to us, just do me a favor, get it. Because I know they've made a request. We have a few between all of us, and we're all just trying to get all of that, so we can get it to him as soon as possible. What else? Did we need something else? I feel like he asked us for something else, Nina, and I don't remember.
I would have to go back in my office.
Yeah, I'll have to go
So
back and read it.
we'll say it on live tomorrow.
Yeah, but just know that I know that you guys see us on here. We're doing our videos and we're doing these lives, but just there's quite a big group of us. Thank you, Serenity. There's quite a big group of us working behind the scenes. We have kept a lot of what we're doing off of social media, and I'm going to tell you why. When you go on social media to do things, people want to break it down. They want to report you. They want to, you know what I mean? And so I think it's safer for everybody, since this is sincerely an issue with justice, and we're just trying to, you want to make sure this doesn't happen to him or anybody else again. You know what I mean? So we have been working diligently behind the scenes. There is a very large group of us. We are moving in silence, Tess. We have made connections with people. We have done an awful lot of work going on. There are a few things that I do need some assistance with. So if you guys are at home and you have time, I know the weekend's coming up if you have families, but if you do have some time to do us some favors, and you're somebody that I know, and I've seen you a lot, you know what I mean? You're someone that, has been around for a minute, you guys know who you are, then please reach out to me, because I have some things that I can task if you guys are looking to help. Please, while I appreciate those who I've never had contact with before, you maybe knew, wanting to help, it's just you know what I mean? I will give other ways for people to help. And again, I saw Prison Princesses live this morning. I saw a lot of people live talking about it. I don't care if you like them as a creator. I don't care anything about anything. If you hear people talking about this case, if you see the videos, guys, it takes a split second, not even a whole second, to like it and to share it. That's all you have to do. You know what I mean? While comments are nice, really, it's just trying to get the word out there. So if you could take that extra second and just hit the reshare or the repost button. On my videos, I'd rather you just repost it than even like it, because it's really just about getting it out there. We want to bring awareness to not only Nick, but all people who are vulnerable that can be caught in the position that Nick was in. And we want to bring light to the fact that there's definitely an issue with the justice system. And in this case, it never happened again to another individual ever. I have autistic family members. I have people in my family who are extremely vulnerable to manipulation, who are extremely vulnerable to any and all of this. And so awareness, this is at least our first step towards awareness. What justice looks like for Nick, I don't know. But again, doing something is better than nothing. We got the time, we got the fingers, we can sit there, we can reshare, get the word out. And so that's where we are right now. But again, I appreciate all of you who have been helping. It is amazing. And all of you who are willing to help, please send me an email. Again, if you guys have, screenshots of those, those comments or the reactions, or her being, the Gypsy Rose, infamous Gypsy Rose comments. If you got them, please email them. Which one of us, doesn't matter. They're all going to the same. Absolutely, Allie. Together, we're all stronger. So, again, I don't care if people are, making accusations. I'm altering documents. I'm lying. Ivy Rose don't know. Like, quite frankly, none of that really matters, because my intentions with this whole thing and my just caring about it exceeds the nonsense. So there's that.
Well, and the facts are the facts. You can't
Do it with yourself.
if if it wasn't legit, we'd be in a courtroom. So there's that.
Yeah, let me tell you something. The amount of time that we've all been spending on this, even before the whole reading of the paperwork and stuff like that, we were working on this for a minute. So, um, yeah. I also
But
was
that
thinking
FOIA
about,
did bring some. I think it made everything make sense. Like, so a lot of the questions that we had that weren't kind of like linking together, I think the FOIA just it it brought.
I think it made it real to people. Like
Yeah.
hearing it in this form, hearing how his lawyer was like, hey, you know what? He wasn't fairly represented in the first time around. This is why. Um, you know what I mean? And I think that just gave people, it just made it a little bit more real. Does that make sense? Not like it's
Yeah.
just a TikTok situation, but it's a real life situation.
Yeah, and also just the mere fact that um there was just even even with it bringing it to reality, I think the part about her lying from the time she was 6, I think that's a game changer in this whole thing that really changes your entire thought process when it comes to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know for me
So
it did. I just know that first night that I saw it, I was just like, wow, wow. So everything that we thought we knew, this kind of moves the needle because it's right here in our face that that's not, what it's just not. And that to me was the crazy part.
hmm yeah. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. I know for mine, um, I know a lot of people have reached out and were like, can you go over it? Can you show me? And so, yeah, um, you know what I mean? Like when I have time, I will do maybe like a subscriber live where I can go and you guys we can look at it, you guys can see it and take what you want from it and all of that stuff. Um, you know what I mean? Just because I feel like I need to do something for those people that do subscribe. And so, since everyone gets to listen
Yeah,
to it
that's a good
anyway,
idea.
we just go over the paperwork and like let them, you know what I mean? If they want to do that, if those who do subscribe want to do that, I think that would be pretty cool. Just because sometimes this takes a second, you know what I mean? But again, if you need to hear it a second time, it's always over on YT. So there's that. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for everybody who's in the chat modding. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
You kept
thank
the,
you, thank you,
the
thank you.
chat,
Thank you for the
all
gifts.
of you. Yeah, it was so clean and refreshing, and you know what I mean. I really do appreciate that. So, thank you guys all. Thank you guys for being here and chit chat. Nina, thank you so much, guys. We
Thank
reached almost
you.
260,000 likes,
Hey,
so
CJ.
I can't thank you enough for that. That's amazing. And I'm actually wait, hold on. I'm gonna sit here till we get to 260. All
Girl,
right, there we go. Thank you guys. Have a good night. I'll see you guys back again tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern.
good night. Thank you, everyone.